Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Radio Amenti. Today's episode, I have on my dear friend and wonderful, wonderful magical being, Valeria, the Mexican witch. I can't do it justice and say it as good as she can, but needless to say, Valeria is such a unique and beautiful being. I had the pleasure of connecting with her about a year ago when I had asked Valeria to be a panelist at Rythmia, which is short for Wellbeing in the Modern Age, an event series that I'm a partner in with my business partner, Anna Lungard. So I had reached out to Valeria to be a panelist on a panel I was moderating on the occult. I had connected to her work because there had been an issue where Sephora was trying to put out a commercialized witch kit, which was hyper whitewashed, and just the problem of what happens when magic and spiritualism becomes mainstream and commercialized. There's a fine balance between allowing the magic to ripple into the collective and then the gross commercialization of things that are sacred to people. So I really loved how Valeria handled the situation, and because of her social media, she actually got Sephora to pull the project. I really admired that spark and using her social media to call attention to something that was a little nefarious and not necessarily for the benefit of all beings. So in this episode, Valeria and I discuss all sorts of things from our recent trip to Rythmia, where we both experienced ayahuasca together. You'll notice Valeria talks about something called rapé often in the episode. Rapé, for those who don't know, is a shamanic snuff, which is made from tobacco and other plant medicines, which is blown up your nose and basically is a way to open up your crown chakra, ground you down before working in plant medicine. And the way I'd best describe it is it almost feels like wasabi for your crown chakra. We talk about that. We talk about, some heated subject matter such as racism and virtue signaling and the fine balance of calling attention to things that need to be called attention to and understanding that the importance of shadow work and that all isn't just love, light, and oneness doesn't mean ignoring social injustice and the problems that we still are facing in the world. Oneness means taking a deep look at the cosmic mirror and understanding that our reflection still needs to be polished and we need to really listen, support, and be there for those who are underserved, underprivileged, and still suffering from the effects of years and years of oppression. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. I absolutely adore Valeria, and I hope you enjoy and adore and all the good things. To learn more about Valeria, you can follow her on Instagram at The Mexican Witch, and her website is the same, The Mexican Witch, and enjoy. Welcome to Radio Amenti, embracing the eternal now, where minds and timelines merge, inspiring synchronicity, awakening potential, and making sense of change. Oh man, I am so happy to be here recording with you right now, Valeria.
And you have no idea how excited I am to support you on this podcast and to just get to talk to you and enjoy your presence again post Rythmia, post hanging out in Costa Rica for a week,
I was talking to one of our dear friends that we met as we were traveling about how I still feel like I'm not quite on linear time. So part of integrating back into this reality and kind of just being in this moment has been it's been interesting these last few days. How about you?
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I've been having flashbacks and visions of the plant medicine and been needing to kind of deal with coming back straight back into work and kind of not having enough time to integrate what I learned. And, while we were at Rythmia, everyone's so wonderful. You just want to catch up and hang out with people. And, in my opinion, I didn't really get that much time to integrate. So I'm kind of just waiting for when, the storm calms and I can handle all my clients and everything and get back into the linear time, like you said.
Totally. And we just got back Sunday, so I think it's still going to take a little bit of time, but back tracking for people tuning in. So you and I had connected over Instagram almost a year ago to the date because I reached out because I wanted you to be a panelist on our panel about the occult realities for Rythmia. I just fell in love with your energy, your spirit, your presence. And I was just like, Valeria would be such a perfect addition to what we have going on with Rythmia. So our first VIP dinner, you wound up winning the trip to Rythmia, which was like the perfect synchronicity. It had been about a year in the making to get there. For people tuning in, Rythmia is the world's first medically licensed plant medicine facility located in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. And basically, we just got back from a program which was 4 days in a row of plant medicine combined with workshops, breath work, everything and anything you can imagine to kind of tune in and unlock new levels of consciousness and heal.
You can't forget the colonic cleanse. That's one of the highlights, it's little inside joke, and also something that I really enjoyed that I think people should learn about. They offer you 3 beautiful colonic cleanses to get all the toxic, literal crap out of you.
Yeah, the colonics, I feel like there's so much like fear and apprehension about it, but man, they to me, that's one of like the ultimate perks of it too.
Yeah, everything about Rythmia was a perk. I can't wait to just get into it and discuss more because I feel so, it was just such an honor to win that trip. Thank you to Rythmia and to Jerry who sponsors those giveaways because, otherwise, perhaps, I wouldn't have been able to make it there so early in my life. And this is already a very life altering in the best way possible situation.
Amazing. So yeah, why don't we just get into it? I'd love to hear the whole experience from your perspective, what it was like for you. And just to kind of, obviously we're going to share some of our joint memories, but I want to really dive into your experience there and what came to you through ayahuasca.
Yeah. So for background, for people who are listening, this is the first time that I tried plant medicine. I had been doing research on it, as much as you can get information on YouTube, which isn't too reliable, for probably 3 or 4 years. I've been kind of in the spiritual community for a while now. And of course, ayahuasca kind of gets thrown around as a term often, and a lot of people have tried it. And so I had a bunch of friends who definitely recommended doing it. And I tried to go in with as open of a heart as possible because I knew that every experience was going to be different, that nothing I saw online was going to turn into what I would experience. And that did end up being true. I was so freaking scared when I first took the medicine. And even as I started to hear a little bit from, the educational workshops that we were getting, because I was scared of puking, it's so weird, but, just kind of grossed out by purging. And even though it seems, I don't know, it's just like a normal fear, right? And I also really was, I was hoping to just kind of not have to confront anything scary. I had heard of people that saw and confronted very ugly entities and just stuff that's really hard to digest and handle. And so I was already kind of going in with that program, holy shit, I'm going to get stuck in hell, my own personal definition of hell, and I'm not going to be able to get out because I'm going to be on the plant medicine for hours. And so, it was quite the opposite when I first took the medicine. We had 4 ceremonies, and the first ceremony is of course the most nerve-wracking, but what I really liked was the rape. So that was really healing and really centering and grounding for me. And as soon as I went into plant medicine mode, the plant showed me one of the most profound visions that I've ever experienced in my life. And, rumor has it that, especially at Rythmia, what the plant does is it connects you to your soul. And I connected to my soul immediately as I went into, the trance state and the connection to the medicine. I'm a bruja by the day, I'm a Mexican bruja, and I work with Santa Muerte, the saint of death. And she is a beautiful patron saint. I call her it's a joke, but I call her the new patron saint of Mexico. And basically my first vision was that I was buried in Costa Rica with a bunch of gold, a bunch of ancestors. I was wearing some really ritual, traditional robes with some lace. It was black, and I had a lot of colorful Mexican flowers on me. and a big headdress with a skull on it. And I knew immediately that that was my death, and that is how I'm going to die and how I want to die. And it also confirmed to me that I'm doing my soul's work actively. I mean, talk about like just, a good entrance into the medicine. I immediately just felt embraced by it.
For our listeners, I still am not completely clear on the difference between a bruja and a witch, like where they meet in the middle and what their differences are, and how having that kind of already the proclivity towards these other worlds, how stepping into that state on plant medicine maybe helped like ease into it, because you're already working with spirits on a daily basis. So that had to definitely be an interesting confirmation to jump into that realm and be like, oh yeah, I operate here.
Yes. So for a bruja, what I would say differentiates it from a witch is just culture, right? So brujas are traditionally women who are of Latin American, Caribbean, Afro-descended, and Spanish-descended. And so that's what marks the difference is a bruja is just the Spanish word for a witch, but the bruja is going to practice and be connected to ancestral magic that is rooted in, indigenous culture. And that is one of the things that I think really marks the difference between a bruja and a witch, especially in modern society, is that the bruja is someone who is connected to the spirits of their home countries, the spirits of Latin America, and practices what is, the traditional healing methods of where they come from. So for example, I'm from Mexico. I was born in the deserts of Chihuahua, and there, the medicine that's practiced there it's a lot of herbal work. It's a lot of medicinal plants, including psychedelic plants, but mostly really related to curing disease. It's an art called curanderismo, and brujeria, which is the Spanish word for witchcraft, is basically all of the workings, all of the candles, all of the spiritual work that the bruja does to help clients and to help herself.
But there was also like such an interesting synchronicity. So when we got to Costa Rica, was this before the medicine, during, or after when you had found out there's actually a real tie between Mexico and Costa Rica?
Oh my God. So it was after, but I will even point to the moment that I love my ancestors so much in the universe, and I just know how divinely connected I am, because I swear to you, Jennifer, I put one foot. As soon as I stepped out of that airport, I started bleeding. I got my period. And so, for me, my period is a very magical, beautiful time. And I was just in awe of the fact that, my body gifted me with this beautiful, psychic connection to the land and to the women of the land, obviously, and to the moon and the water. And so I found out during plant ceremony number 2, I believe, that Costa Rica is actually, there was a lot of migrants that came from what is current Mexico. And this was told to me by one of the healers, one of the helpers in ceremony. His name was Ronnie. Big shout out to him, because he helped me through a lot. But Ronnie said that the Mexica people, that's what the ancient Mexicans are called, they migrated downwards to Costa Rica and settled in that exact area. And so he said that his people and most of the people of Costa Rica, they all have that heritage coming from Mexico.
Wow. It's so cool how that kind of aligns and how your body has that confirmation. And it's kind of weird how it worked out because, starting your moon cycle as you got on the land, there was a little bit of worry because in a lot of indigenous traditions working with ayahuasca, they believe when a woman is on her moon that she vibrates at such a high level that, she's doing such ceremonial work through her body that, having that go into ceremony as well can actually disrupt the frequency of the plant medicine. So it worked out really well though that it arrived, but you also said that ayahuasca helped you clear it just in time for the 4th night.
Oh my God. So I was so mad. Obviously I was happy that it happened in such a ritual way, but I was really mad because someone had told me that the shaman, specifically the one who did the 4th ceremony where we had a medicine that's a little more purgative, yahe, basically that, you're not allowed to do it if you're on your period. And so as soon as I started bleeding, I let myself enjoy it for a little bit, but I talked to my uterus and my vagina and, you know, my intuition and the spirits. And I said, please, please take this away, because I mean, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I can't skip the ceremony because I came here to do massive spiritual work on myself so that I can go and uplift, and so that I can go and live a better, more peaceful life. You know, and I deserved it too, because being a woman of color and like struggling my entire life with, you know, the common struggles of women of color, like racism and, you know, in my personal history, you know, sexual assault and trauma, violence from men and machismo, like all of that shit that I was healing from, like I needed to be able to do that last ceremony to bring myself to the place where I am now. You know, the plant listened. Like, she really is very alive, and she listens. And I also want to say that, you know, I don't know if this happens to other people, but I think she really, really, really communicated back to me and spoke a lot and listened. And it wasn't just as if she was acting on me, but I did feel like we had a very good fusion of energies together, where we were working as a team rather than her guiding me and taking me to the places where she wanted. I think eventually I figured out how to steer myself in the direction that I wanted to. And she really definitely took me there, which was really, really amazing.
So beautiful when it feels like it's a collaborative experience instead of you're just losing complete control. Because there are medicines where literally, I mean, and ayahuasca can be that, where you really have to surrender. But if you could surrender and then get to the space of collaboration, you really can work well together. Even, you know, there was times where I'd be purging and I'm like, oh, this is awful. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to work together with it. So it's like, all right, Mama Ayahuasca, let me purge out toxicity. Let me purge out negativity. Let me purge out all the like insecurity and sadness and all these things. And it becomes this weird process where you're asking for things and she's delivering them, and you work hand in hand. So the first ceremony kind of set the stage. Then we segued into the second ceremony. How do you feel like every ceremony kind of took you through the process of healing?
So I think I did a lot of ancestral work at first. You know, I think I had to heal some of the major wounds in my line, which included, you know, disconnection to ancestors that have passed recently that I didn't really talk to. And like I mentioned before, my family, you know, in Mexico specifically, there's a lot of machismo. So there's a lot of like, and that's a word, a Spanish word for sexism. And basically that's where I started with tackling a lot of things that I knew were there that I needed to handle. And I had very clear goals. And so that's how I worked through the ceremonies, is I really did have a system of asking the plant to work through very specific things for me. And I was also very lucky because Christian, who is one of the people who is training at Rythmia and is one of the assistants, when he delivered Rape, he really, I think, helped elevate my intentions and held them and helped me through ceremonies to kind of really, really accomplish those purposes. And that's how I think I made it through. And that's how I think I started to tackle everything I needed to tackle. It was because I had the right mindset, the right thoughts, and the right research. You know, I was just looking at my journal from before I went. You know, I have like a good 10 pages of just things that I wrote down that I knew would happen, or that I wanted to process, that were just very traumatic things or very stressful things to deal with. And, you know, La Planta, you know, Madre Ayahuasca ended up really, really taking me there to the depths and to the darkness that I wanted to reach in order to really uplift myself from there.
And it's interesting, the contrast, right? Like going deep into the darkness and the depths and just the emotional work that was done. Your Instagram post about Wednesday night, it actually made me tear up. Because on the night of the Aquarian full moon, you know, it was such a contrasting experience between like heightened emotions and sadness and just feeling, and then purging, and then like hysterical laughter. Like I have not.
that was so epic, honestly.
Yeah, run us through Wednesday night.
Okay. Oh my God. This is so exciting because Wednesday night, the Divine Feminine ceremony, which was run by a shaman named Sarah, was just everything I needed, because she was very intentional about helping us set intentions to connect to the divine feminine. And she's also had a very commanding energy, and not in a bad way, in a way where I think she protected all of us and really, really made the space a place where we could experience and feel safe and cry and basically do anything we needed to purge. And so started the night off with one little beautiful drink of ayahuasca, which, by the way, y'all, if you're worried about the taste, to me, the taste is delicious. Like it tastes like something sweet to me that is actually made in Mexico called piloncillo. And so I love the taste. I couldn't wait to have more. I took one, and this was after Sarah had blessed the space and said a prayer and set up an altar. And I took some rape, and that calmed, opened up my third eye. And, I laid in my bed and I started to process. I believe this was the night where, I think I just started to process a lot of the me stuff, and not necessarily stuff related to my ancestors, but more related to like my views of myself and my, what I'm going to call self-hatred or non-acceptance of who I was. The night started off really slow. Jennifer was laying down next to me, and one of our friends, we just couldn't stop laughing because one of our friends, Anna, she was making very interesting noises, and we were just having a ball laughing, and I was laughing because everybody else was laughing. And then, you can't really help it, but when people throw up, it's funny. And so if you're not throwing up, you think it's funny. And there's a couple of us who started laughing because of that. And after that, some time passed, and the ayahuasca really moved itself through me in a very positive way. I was able to get up really fast. I ended up going out to watch the moon and to connect to the moon, probably, an hour in, which is not very long in. And there was a freaking party, a Mexican Mother's Day party, or should I say Costa Rican Mother's Day party on the adjacent resort. And the music was hella loud. Like we could hear it in our space. And there's this music. It's like Zen music, like Ganesh mantras and like ayahuasca music playing. And then everyone can still hear this. Like, first of all, oh my God, the band was incredible. Like everyone could hear the band. And it was just so funny because I couldn't figure out if it was Rythmia that was trying to like play some weird tricks on us and get us ready for a party, or if it was actually a party next door. And so, the music that was playing was all songs that I knew. And I ended up going outside and just dancing and letting loose, and like more loose than I had ever let before. I felt that I was really healing people and myself then, because I had just come out of a very, very sad vision, which was repeatedly sent to me about poverty and struggle of my people. And I spent a lot of time in that vision and in that space. I couldn't get out of it because fortunately I'm uplifting myself from this narrative of poverty and this narrative of, Latinx, Latino people not having as much money as people who, have been in this country for generations. And for me, the fact that I was in so much pain, and then I like got up and started to dance and feel the music moving through me in a way I've never felt it before. Like that was so incredible. And I was healing, I was inviting the spirits into me. I do believe in what's called mounting. So mounting in specifically practices like voodoo and brujeria and a bunch of these mystical practices. Mounting is when a spirit goes into you and it takes over you and it animates you. It most of the time it makes you dance or it makes you sing. And so that's what I believe was happening to me. I did a little bit of research on the spirits I thought were mounting me, and it was quite wonderful. I really felt as if my body became a vessel for those divine spirits to come in that night. And I even had a moment where this was also funny. My ancestors from Chihuahua, where I was born, they are a people named the Tarahumara. So the Tarahumara are famous runners. They're famous because they basically run for miles and miles barefoot in the desert. And I started to like pretend I was like training for a marathon, and my friend like told me that he thought my knees were like going up past like up to my chest, and he was just like, what the heck, like what is going on, Valeria? So that was just so fun. It was really, really confusing because it was painful, but then I brought out all this joy. And I just wanted to move and run and like be like a crazy little kid running around. And it was amazing.
Well, the best part about that is because you had no idea that myself, Mary, and there was a few more of us, you were bringing us so much healing and laughter and pure joy. I was in the hammock at this point because each ceremony I'd get to a threshold where I'm like, I worked with the medicine and now I wanted to go just be in the hammock and sit by the trees, and bats fly in and out of the trees. So it became my peace spot. So then I'm in my my like peaceful spot, and I see you dancing, and it just is the most precious thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And you didn't even realize that I'm watching you. Mary didn't even realize, you didn't realize Mary was watching you. It was just like, damn, like that's why I say, like, you're beyond a bruja, you're beyond a witch, you're beyond a shaman. You really are like so much, because that was honestly one of the most magical, special moments and healing in such a unique way.
Oh, you make me tear up. You're so special to me because you see all of that in me, and you helped me get there and to use this medicine and to connect to what I think is just was meant to be, because I really do think that my ancestors sent you to me to help me to get to Rythmia, because I was meant to do this plant medicine. And even the fact that like there was a freaking beach party that was really loud and all the music was Mexican, like I just found that to be a sign that like the spirits wanted me to move energy. And that's what I was doing, Jennifer. So the fact that I was making you and Mary laugh through like all these weird visions and all these weird times, like I was moving energy, and that's what I do. And that's how I heal people, and this became really clear to me, because Lord knows what the heck I am and what energy I am. I'm still trying to figure it out. I need to do another session, another ceremony to figure that out. But I feel like when I move, I connect to something that's just like on the other side, and I bring it forward. And it's this type of ancestral joy that only exists really if you're from the land of Mexico. Like that's what it is. It's my ancestors, the way they move, the way that they animate, the way that they heal. It's joyful and it's funny, and it's just that living, it's that pure vida life that runs through my veins. And it's everyone and everything that I've ever been in a past life and in my ancestry, and that's why it felt so awesome for you guys to reflect that back to me, because in my head, I was saving humanity by dancing. Like, because I had just had all that poverty, and I was thinking about, actually, one of the really profound messages that ayahuasca was sending me was that she was helping me uplift the Black people of the world. So, I really got into a lot of places where my maternal energy and my divine feminine was just really, really sobbing and crying over the desperation of the world. And particularly my brown and Black brothers and sisters and people of other genders who are oppressed all over the world. And the plant brought that out in me really, really hardcore. And she gave me a secret, which was that if I moved through it and I danced with the people on the other side, that I was healing those people. And she kept saying to me, levanta a la gente negra, which means uplift Black people. And, she kept saying that, I envision, and I was creating a world in my spiritual trip there. I was creating a world and creating energy. She said, you're creating a world where there's a lot of employment for Black people, where Black people have more opportunity, where Black and brown people are not discriminated against. And that's what I was dancing for. That's what you were feeling. You were feeling me moving all of the people of color in the world through my spirit.
And the fact that too, when you were speaking to me and Mary in Spanish, and we understood everything that you were saying, that was such an interesting phenomena, because we were like, yes, we feel it, we see it. And that was also why I was so glad that you won the trip too, because Jerry is an amazing man, and what he's done at Rythmia is so incredible, because although it is this luxury resort, he gives back so much and offers so many opportunities to send people down there to open up the medicine opportunity to those who need it. Like, this is a type of person that will put his heart on his sleeve for whoever is in need. But there is so much privilege. There is a ton of white privilege. And I think having you be there to be like, even in our closing ceremony, to be a voice for the voiceless, to say like, no, this is a very white perspective on things just being okay in the news and things just being positive, because it's not. People are suffering, and we need to use our voices to speak about the fact that there are people still suffering, and it's not all this bubble of bliss.
Wow. Yeah, you nailed it. And, I want to hear you talk a little bit too, because I don't want to take her too much. I want to hear about, I don't know. If you're willing, I want to hear your perspective on some of this stuff, because, we discussed your heritage a little bit, which is really amazing too. I found out that you're partially Egyptian and that you have some heritage that's really, it's not what you see on the surface, right? Because I feel like most people would look at Jennifer and they'd say, if they're not reading your spirit, if they're just reading your body, they'll see and they'll say, well, Jennifer's white, right? And so there's all these complexities to race and to privilege. So I'm interested in hearing if you kind of learned anything from what we just discussed, you know, from really like dissecting privilege as well and dissecting your own privilege being there, because especially, you were there and you were a teacher. And so like, you were a respected figure there. So it adds another layer of, the consciousness that you should be responsible for and feel responsible for being a person who actually does get listened to in that space.
I mean, it's something that's been with me forever, because I grew up with a lot of friends of different cultures, different creed, different everything. Like my best friend growing up was biracial, and like I was friends with everybody. For me, it wasn't like growing up. I grew up in a very waspy area, so there's like a lot of like white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. But where I spent most of my time was at my grandparents' house in this town called Belmar, and Belmar is like very much like, blue collar, middle of the road, but like a lot of poverty too. But like we all just kind of like hung out and came together. And my whole life, it was this weird juxtaposition of being in elementary school where there was only one person of color. There was only one person of color, and he was one of my best friends. But like, I can't even imagine what that struggle had to be like for him. And it's something I've carried with me, because I'm like, there is so much inequality still. Flash forwarding to the future, here I am working in the space of wellness and consciousness. And before I became a partner in Rythmia, I was actually asked to be a panelist on my dear friend Noah. He was one of the original partners. He has a podcast called Synchronicity, and he runs something called Mind Pod Network. So Noah had asked me to be on his panel. I'm like, sure, I love being on panels. This is a great opportunity. But I show up and it is white.
Wow.
White. And I'm like, This is not cool, because this is not what well-being is. We live in a community of people that are not just white, privileged, rich, stick figure skinny women that can just talk about like totally like living a high vibe life and like having Jimmy Choo shoes. And I was like, fuck this.
Right.
I'm like, but I love all the people that are involved. So I think maybe they're just not aware of what's happening. So when Anna and I so I was first a panelist, then a moderator, and then Anna had asked me if I wanted to partner in Rythmia. And I'm like, yes, because I've spent the last, 6 years building an online platform that reaches a ton of people. But I've just had this call that like really the way to reach people now is to take it offline. But I'm like, listen, I'm not going to get involved unless we diversify and we become inclusive and we become a place where people can feel safe to explore their consciousness and to voice their opinions and to talk about things that matter, not just like totally living a high vibe life.
Right. Oh my goodness. And that's what's difficult for me, because even coming back to where I live in New Orleans, a lot of what I was suffering through too. And I don't really know if this is the experience of a lot of people, or if it's just me, like being an Aquarius that's concerned about like the revolution and all the people and like being super humanitarian. But I was also just really suffering for New Orleans, because like New Orleans is one of the like most poorly served, disease-ridden, underserved places in the country. It's awesome, and there's a lot of tourism, but it's also really, really toxic here. And there's a lot of problems here with both the government and with corruption and with crime and people, just a lot that affects brown people. And, most of the homeless people are Black, and it's just very, very interesting, that's kind of like what I was going through. And I had to process that even after. And I felt like I didn't really have too many people to hold the space for me at Rythmia where I could talk about, the brown struggle. Like, actually, I'm really thankful for, I think her name is Treva is her name. So Treva is another person of color. She identifies as Black. And, we had a bonding moment because, she said something about how she like really wants the revolution, and she wants, big change to come. And she, wants the eras of the Black Panthers to come back. And I feel similar, that my spirit feels that, and my body feels that, and my consciousness feels that. It was nice because eventually I did find someone to hold that space for me. But sometimes it's difficult as a person of color to find a space where I even feel comfortable mentioning that stuff, because even in the last closing ceremony, like you saw me, Jennifer, I couldn't stop crying, because the entire time I was just thinking about how for some people that are there, and I'm coming out of the love consciousness, and I hold everybody's experience as valid. And I think that everybody has pain, but I think that the level of pain that I experience as a person of color and that people like me experience is exponentially higher, because I had to go through poverty. I had to immigrate. I had to, my parents, I had to watch them suffer. My dad worked for 15, 16 years in the hot sun in construction before he even made good money. And that's all the pain I freaking carry. And my ancestors who, they all had professions where they didn't make that much money. And also knowing, the plant was showing me, I kept asking myself, where's the wealth? Where's the wealth? Where is it? And the answer is that a lot of rich white people are holding that stuff. And so it was really painful for me because knowing that I don't have access to that and that I'm building it. Now, am I going to get that eventually? Hell freaking yes, because I'm a manifester and because it'll come to me. But it takes me 35 years to do that thing because I was not born into it. And I wasn't born to white privilege or wealth privilege. And even though I have love for every person that was at Rythmia, even the people who are very rich, I do feel that there are people there that come in who have, white collar problems. And I think it's hard to deal with on an energetic level for me because I am just like really trying to, I feel like I have all these additional problems on top of my personal bullshit to solve and to deal with based on the fact that I was not born into an easy lifestyle. And I also, most of my family is not buried in money and we don't have access to that stuff. So everything is harder for us.
Well, I think that's why it's so important for you to talk about these things because, it's that saying ignorance is bliss. And so many people don't realize that. And the thing with medicine, right? Ayahuasca is they say, as we take these journeys, we heal our generational trauma. It repairs our DNA and it's like going back in time of all the trauma that we've carried throughout the generations. And white trauma comes from, like maybe you're from a family that was like mentally abusive or emotionally abusive or whatever. Everybody's trauma is varying degrees on the scale. Mm-hmm. But the thing that nobody talks about is that people of color are not only dealing with trauma in that sense from whatever generational issues may have carried through family. It's also oppression. It's poverty. There are so many things in this uphill battle that it's like the healing is so deep that I can't even imagine, like not having somebody to hold space to even hear that, wow, it's not just this. There's so much more to it.
Yeah. And I'm really, really thankful, and I feel like right now what you're doing too, I'm so thankful for you. And I continue to be, and echo that to the world because I do feel as if you really hold space for me. And my post, that's why you mentioned it earlier, my Instagram post, where I was struggling to accept myself and I'm coming, and I'm feeling tears coming through. I struggle to accept myself because I feel the need to continuously talk about this stuff. And that's something that not a lot of people can accept unless they're going through the same thing or they're a part of the same consciousness. And what you're doing for me is you're allowing for me to be my spirit. You're allowing for me to speak. These are my ancestors too. The reason I'm like this, Jennifer, I feel like I could be very nonchalant about things and I could live in my privilege because I do have privilege, but I don't because my ancestors don't let me. They're like, how can you sit there and not talk about this stuff when there is so many people out there suffering? And if I don't talk about it and bring the consciousness, especially because I have a voice, thank the Lord, thank Spirit, thank the universe. I eventually, I'm looking to have hundreds of thousands of people listening to what I say. And when that happens, and the plant told me that too, it said, we're going to give you a lot of power. The spirits told me that. They said, you're going to sway so many people and you're going to have so much influence that they said, you be careful and know what you speak for. And that's why I speak the way I do, because my voice is the one that will uplift me and the people that are like me. People like you who are listening, who are tapping into this and analyzing privilege and also just giving their heart and soul and listening to the people who are suffering. This means the world to me because this is love. This is what I need. This is what allows for me to not hate myself and to not stifle myself because you're holding space for me to be me without shame and for me to let out the radical in me, which is a large, large portion of my soul.
And it's fucking special, you know, like there's my big thing about when the first Whitma, I was like, I feel like there's just like beyond the whiteness, there's this beige aesthetic to things, right? Within the wellness community where everything's beige, everything's like love and light. Everything's like, yeah, totally, whatever. And it's like, fuck no, you know, like I always say, like, I feel like I'm the punk kid in the space because I want to support the radicals. I want to be the voice to the voiceless. I want to listen. I want to share. I want people to realize that it's like stepping outside of the matrix isn't just mean like I can vibrate my way into a new car.
Right.
It's like, fuck, things aren't going to change unless we listen to the things that we've been ignoring. And things aren't going to change by using your social media as like a white person to just virtue signal. Cause there's a lot of that too, where it's like, you're just virtue signaling and you're not actually doing anything about it, or you're not actually supporting the people that need to be talking about this. It's conflicting. And something you had said that like really stuck with me too is about how there are certain friends that you have that like would not want to be my friend because I'm white. And like, I just can't even imagine the pain of just, it like makes me feel embarrassed for my race because we should be doing better. We're not doing better, but I really hope to be that person to continue to do better and to hold space for amazing people like yourself that are just speaking their truth and living their truth and fucking embodying it in every sense of the word.
Yeah. Like seriously, this is, I mean, you know, it's amazing to be heard in such ways. And, you know, and I think that, you know, when people meet me too, you know, they get to understand that I am all this. You know, I talked about duality and balance. I am this person who is very, I don't want to call it angry. I want to say just vocal and passionate, right? So vocal and passionate, and that can be perceived as angry when reality, yeah, there's anger behind it, but there's also like, I do love white people. And like, I want to make that super clear to everybody, because everyone always thinks that, you know, when I'm talking about privilege and I'm addressing white folks, specifically really rich, privileged white people, everyone thinks that I'm spewing hatred. And I am a being of love, and I accept all people. And the plant actually, it pushed me even further, because there was people there that I was just like, holy shit, I'm so annoyed. Like, you look like you're just this dude with a bunch of privilege who's come here 5 times. That means you literally have like $30,000, $40,000 to just throw around. And, you know, I can never imagine just having 30, 40K to just throw around like that. And, you know, but she pushed me to listen to them. She pushed me to even see their good spirits and to listen and hold space for them. And I want everybody to know that, you know, I envision a world, in my perfect world, like we would all be equal. Just like, you know, a lot of people like to preach and they like to say, oh my God, we're all equal. We're all equal. Well, yeah, that world is possible. But for that world to be possible, we need love, we need peace, but we need redistribution of wealth and acknowledgement of privilege. And we need to demolish the systems that oppress us. And that's not going to happen if we all don't unite. And I really do think that every person plays a key role, and that, you know, the uplifting of the white consciousness, the uplifting of the people who are privileged is just as important as the uplifting of the brown people that keep talking about this stuff.
And I think that's where like the confusion of like the idea of like, we are all one or we're all connected. It's like, yes, we are all connected. So you need to look in the mirror of the underprivileged and say, holy shit, this is a reflection of something that I could change. I have the potential to change this. But like, look at the miracle of the fact that like you were there the week that you were there, and how many privileged people were there that you probably helped inject something into their consciousness that maybe they didn't think of before, or maybe didn't realize. And maybe they can take that wealth and pay it forward. Because really, it's like, ultimately the problem here is that the system's fucked, you know, we have to smash the system. Absolutely. And create something new.
Yeah.
But that can only happen through, I mean, I hate to say like the idea of like the bloody revolution, but like, I think this is why we're in what some people say is like the Kali Yuga, because it is that creative destruction. It's this destructive creation. It's this space of like rage and fire. But from that, fire purifies and it also creates. And I think things need to kind of like burn down, and that anger needs to be felt, because otherwise it just stays in this beige complacency.
See, now you're speaking. I love your spirit. See, and it's coming out, and I love it so much, because everything you just said, it woke me up. It makes me, it's what I feel, but also, you sparked some visions in me. And I did have many moments with people who I I talked to them specifically about the spirits contained in the plant of the curanderos, the indigenous folks that, you can see these spirits. I walked a couple people through, because people are struggling to visualize, but I think it's because partially like they're trying to come in there and meet like certain deities or whatever, but they don't know that some of the truest spirits contained in that plant are the spirits of indigenous people and the spirits of curanderos that are like old, 5,000 years old. They told us this tradition is 5,000 years old. And so when you consume this plant, like if you visualize and you're going to meet the spirits of these people, then you're more likely to see them. So that was a big thing, for anyone listening that is curious about ayahuasca and going to Rythmia. First of all, heck yes, freaking go. Put down that freaking money. It's so worth it. You will never regret it. And then two, I almost feel like people need a guide to the plant that's not just a shaman, because the context of like some of the culture and some of the people and the spirits contained in that plant and the vibrations, it's not really explained as much as I think it should be. So that's one thing that I really want to eventually, speak about and bring to Rythmia, hopefully to be brought back there as an instructor or to help people connect to the indigeneity of the plant, because I did have a moment where I connected two of the people who are now actually like, now I would call them good friends because we bonded a lot. I connected them to the indigenous spirits. I told them what they look like. I told them that the indigenous spirits would heal them. Heck, I put ritual indigenous war paint on people that were not indigenous. And that is a really big deal to me, because that is me giving my sacred medicine to other people, that are not a part of my culture. And I did that, and I connected people because I knew and I saw that they had indigenous spirit as well. And they were feeling and they were listening to me, and they were working with the plant in the way in which I encouraged them to. And that was really big for me, because and there is other spirits too that are in there that, they talk to us about, like, for example, Thoth, Tahuti, also known as Hermes, Hermes Trismegistus. He has a bunch of names, but I saw Thoth too, and that was really marvelous. So I saw many, many spirits, and I just hope that people listen to this and they kind of like, they do some research and they start to tap into who they might possibly meet, because that was one thing that was not mentioned at all. And I think it needs to be talked about a little more.
I agree. That's something that they've been in business now for 4 years. And every time I go, it gets better than the next, and things are just getting refined more and more. But I also agree. I think just knowing what you're working with and the culture and history behind it is so important, because it's like you're diving into the well of the collective consciousness and the collective unconscious. But the water of that well comes from these indigenous spirits. And who are they? Where do they come from? The first time I did ayahuasca was at another place in Costa Rica called Guardia de Osa. And the man that runs it is such a wonderful being. He's the custodian of the Sequoia elders,
wow,
who are from Ecuador. And, we had this chat. So he was their translator, because they speak a very specific type of language. I'll put it in the show notes once I look it up again, but it's not Spanish. It's a very specific dialect. And we had asked them, because the plant, this is the other thing that's like the insane part about ayahuasca, is that it's two different plants that are very different from each other and don't grow next to each other. But when combined, it puts you into this psychedelic state of healing. I actually prefer the term entheogenic state. So entheogen is like a plant that connects you to God, right?
Yes.
But the elders of the Sequoia tradition, when you ask them, like, how did you figure this out? How did you know to put these two plants together to create this medicine? And they just say with the cutest expression, well, the plants told us.
Oh my God, I love that, because that's true. Plants talk to you, and you know that.
Completely. It's just we have dialed down the volume on the things that are most sacred, because we're in this matrix that's so mutant to what we really are.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's something that I really hope will evolve, but I believe in it. Rythmia, I just am in awe of everything Jerry's done. And they really, even though, people get so triggered at the price, and yes, it is pricey, but it's like getting a accelerated college course on life and spirit and all of the realms of self in a week.
It's basically
like the accelerated growth.
It's basically paying for like the best therapy that you can get, because like what I did at Rythmia in 4 days, I wouldn't have been able to do in months of therapy. You know what I mean? And so to me, that's really, if you're going to really put like, a price on your healing, which like, I think it is important for people to invest in their spiritual healing. It's worth every penny. Like, I actually am saving my money to go back because I know that it's worth it. And even though it's a lot, it seems quote unquote like a lot of money to me, it's not, because it's so many days, it's so many people, it's so supportive. You have everything you need there. And it's just a life-changing experience, and it is worth every penny. And, I want us to just talk about the fun stuff too, Jennifer, because the last ceremony, which you didn't get to go to, God, was so cool.
Yeah, I'd love to get the recap, because I wasn't there and I definitely made the right choice, but I'm so glad that you went through all 4. So give me the scoop.
Oh my God. So the last ceremony, for context, y'all, is we do a plant called yahe. And we had a really, really amazing shaman named Leo. And I believe Leo, I don't know where he's from, but he was Latino. He spoke Spanish. He was really, really rad. His spirit is just super healing and super strong and forward and very manly. And so basically, we were allowed to drink ayahuasca until like 10 in the morning. So we could have, as many drinks as we wanted, as long as the shaman thought it was a good idea. And so I ended up having 3, which was the most that I had. And I'm very glad I didn't push it past 3. But basically, we started with complete silence, which I really, really liked, because it was 2 hours of silence where I was just like meditating, letting energy move through me and, and healing. And then, there was a lot of, there started some of the music, and it was like live music, and it was like guitars and drums, and it's specifically like towards the end of the ceremony, right around like 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning. I had only recently taken the last cup, and I took the last cup around like 4 probably. And it was just so epic, because this was the fun part for me. I saw a lot of people turn into different things. So not just, it wasn't even hallucinogenic. Like, it was their bodies, but they were doing certain things. So Sarah, the shaman, I swear to you, she was guarding the ayahuasca altar like a jaguar. Like, I saw her crouched down, and I swear she was like using her animal instincts to protect the plant and to protect us. I feel like Sarah turned into her Nahual, which is her animal self. And I feel like Leo, oh my God. So I would hear Leo chanting outside, and I would just zone into his voice, and it was as if his spirit was talking to me through everything he was chanting. And so he like said the thing I kept hearing, which he talked to us about in the beginning, was that we should connect to nature and we should connect to the surroundings around us. And Leo's big message for me, and the message that plant gave me, it kept saying like, you are the jungle, you are the jungle, you are every spirit in the jungle. And I turned into the jungle. Like, when I lost my ego and when my thinking disappeared, I melted into the spirits around me, and I became the trees. I became the birds. I became the wind. I became the frogs. I became the jaguars and the gorillas. Like, I became all of that stuff. And it was epic because 1, I really enjoyed transforming into animals. And 2, it was very cool to be in this, like, I know it wasn't happening for everybody because some people were really busy purging a lot of their spiritual energy out. But I got to a point where eventually, I got past all my really like bad purging. And instead of just having the purging, this was, around the 2nd cup, I was just in the spiritual world experiencing the one in the consciousness and the ego dissolution, which was so sweet for me because I became one with Leo. Like, I felt like I was walking next to Leo being a jaguar. And I felt like I was with the shamans, like participating in the healings and like walking around and guarding the perimeter, even though I was laying down in my bed, but my spirit was traveling outside where the shamans were. And my spirit became the music. My spirit became the drum. And weirdly enough, one of the toughest moments with, and I mean, maybe this is just my impression of what was happening, but, they say that a lot of people are having psychic surgery. The plant actually made me pump the blood for people during the surgery, which was really, really intense because I was like, how the heck are you giving me this much responsibility to pump the blood for the surgeries? And it was kind of scary, but I also felt really strong because the entire time the plant kept saying that she gave me this responsibility because she trusted in me. And then when I got my healing in the shamanistic circle with Leo, that's when I passed out. I lost consciousness. So it was really trippy because this was after 3rd cup of ayahuasca, and I was feeling the surgery being done. My jaw was numb, and I was like having a lot of healing clearly done, and the workers, the shamans and Christian and a couple of the other people were working on me. I swear I had like 4 or 5 people working on me. And in those moments, like, I felt like they were all treating me like the ancestor and the spirit I was, because I was being given so much love and care, and they were whispering all these like protection affirmations on me. And I felt like they were just giving me what I deserved, you know, as a person who showed up there struggling, suffering for the people. And I do think that the shaman was tapped into my pain, because from the beginning, I actually told him, I gave myself a different name when I went into ceremony. I renamed myself because I wanted to go in there with my soul name. And my soul name is Xochitl. It's a derivation of Xochiquetzal, who is the goddess of sex and love and prostitutes in ancient Mexico, and Tecutli, which is the root word for Lord. And so I told him that name so that he would know who he was like dealing with. And obviously he's smart and he's probably heard the name and he's very tapped in. And that was really fun, although it was a very pukey and very crazy energy, very high energy, very chaotic, very confusing. It was also really healing, and it was also really amazing to feel like that the help that I needed came, and that whatever was in me that was really bad, it was heavy. Leo took it out. He really, really did. And I'm so thankful for him. And then, at the end, it was all music, and I let go, and I had another moment where I just let the spirits dance through me, and swear to God, I was floating. I saw a hummingbird, and that's the hummingbird is the symbol of Xochiquetzal. And it was all just like everyone at some point at the end, most people were happy and most people were dancing and really tapped into their divine. And so people were shaking it, like moving their booties and playing instruments and hugging each other and just spreading love and feeling beautiful. And that last ceremony, it was perfect. Everything, even the pain. And I threw up, my bucket was full to the brim. I am so thankful for every bit of puke, and I'm so thankful for every bit of joy and pain and everything I experienced, because I am so clear now. I am so ready to take on more. I am such a different person. I am in such a vibration of higher consciousness, and I'm so tapped in, and I can see so many more spirits. I can understand people so much more. My readings have been better. And I really am just very incredibly thankful for the space that was held by these very, very strong shamans.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, what do they say it's because the shaman that work at Rythmia followed the path of the Colombian tradition, and they talk about the bitterness and the sweetness, how the bitter is there to serve a lesson, but then the sweetness is always on the other side. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny trying to explain to people that have never worked with the medicine before that the puking feels good.
It does. Oh my God.
And they don't look at it as getting sick. It's getting well. Because we're getting rid of the things that don't serve us anymore and seeing how ugly it is to carry those emotions with us. Yep. And I know now that you're home, you are finishing up the book that you're working on, right?
Yes,
I'd love to hear more about what's coming up.
I just finished it. I'm really happy. And I think, it's really divine timing that I was able to go get inspired and connect to such deep spirits and to see so much, because it allowed for me to be a little more creative with my writing.
So when will that book be coming out?
Hopefully, I'm hoping to get it rolled out by the holidays.
By the holidays?
Yeah,
are you
sometime
allowed
in
to
December,
announce the name?
If it's not, January, bring in 2020 correctly. It's a book called Love Potions, and it's a book I'm releasing through Cosmopolitan magazine. And I basically wrote and created recipes for people to connect to love and sexuality and to heal themselves from love wounds. And I'm really proud and excited for it to come out.
It's amazing. What a perfect timing to kind of have some ending notes on it after opening your heart so much in this last journey and just dialing into a new level of Valeria.
Oh, yeah.
So for everybody listening, where can people keep in touch? How can people work with you? Where can people learn more? All the plugs, all the things.
All right, my loves. So you can hear me do my usual greeting where I say, I'm Valeria, the Mexican witch, and I'm a magical woman, a bruja born in Mexico. You can connect with me very easily on my website if you would like to schedule a tarot reading or spiritual guidance session. The website is themexicanwitch.com. No spaces, really simple. And my Instagram is The Mexican Witch. And that's basically the only 2 platforms that I use. I like to streamline my stuff. I'm also on YouTube as The Mexican Witch. So I'm starting to build my YouTube, and that's where I'll write my review of Rythmia and where I will release my vlog. So follow me if it's not too much to ask for. I love to connect to people. I respond to people in the comments. So I'm really, really good on that. Occasionally I'll go on live, but I really, really like to guide people and to help them in their spiritual progress and process, and to connect them to the Mexican deities, who are good for everybody. They're not just for the Mexicans, but I really like to build the consciousness, especially around Santa Muerte, the Saint of Death, and connect people to her healing spirit so that they can uplift as well, and so that they can connect to the sacred indigeneity and these traditions that are going to lift our people off the ground.
You're amazing.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I just want to thank you again for all that you do and all that you offer to the world. It's fucking so special. And this has been such a treat. And hopefully by the time the show's out, we'll be able to add your Rythmia testimonial video in the show notes. But until then, I look forward to the next time we can podcast. And I'm just so grateful for who you are in this world, because it is a fucking unique light that everybody needs to connect to.
It's a light and a dark. It's so funny because I'm like both. And to kind of finish off, it's like, I wrote in my post on Instagram when I was talking about my experience at Rythmia, that the reason I'm a witch is because witchcraft holds space for light and dark. And I'm not just the light. I love being a light, and it's what I predominantly do, but I do shadow work, and I am a shadow worker, and I'm a proud one. And I am both. And I am chaos, and I want to say I don't really have that much order in me, but I am very chaotic. And, all of that is me. And I'm just real, I'm real, and I keep it real, and, I don't give a fuck.
It's the best. Well, thank you, Valeria. And we'll definitely talk soon.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you.